It's 6 o'clock, so we'll call the meeting to order.
This meeting is being recorded.
Just in case you're wondering.
It works. Any changes to the agenda?
No.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those say no. Agenda is approved. Go through the consent items. Are there any questions?
Department of Ed, 11B, what's that 550?
That's our vehicle inspections.
Is that?
They require us to do it and then we have to pay for it.
Sure, I thought it was more than that. It's the inspection. That was for 11 vehicles,
Yeah,
550?
Yeah, what is that, $5.50?
Yeah, that wasn't bad.
$55 a vehicle.
Yeah. So does that include buses?
Yeah.
So they don't
We have
charge
11.
more for buses or anything, so.
No, just per vehicle. But then you have to pay for all the repairs that.
Right. Things assigned.
It's sort of like when
Did they find some?
always find some. They take it out.
But I think we've got them pretty much.
Yeah,
fixed now.
it does.
Like,
A lot of times it's minor and it's like a, it could be rust on a vehicle that we gotta get repaired or whatever.
but Kevin kept checking the mail and like he was just waiting for those little stickers, like the
we were
seals.
good.
And
Okay.
now we're good. So,
Okay, cool.
Is there a guy from Nevada who does?
No.
Is that, that's an
DE does that.
inspector.
The
Oh, they
DE
actually.
comes. Yeah,
Oh,
the
okay.
DE and then the state patrol comes.
I just thought we just.
No, the Vern is his name who comes, and I think he is actually retiring. It's probably gonna be somebody else, so. I think this time it actually was a little bit lighter than what we expected. Like maybe,
First findings.
yeah,
Okay.
usually they go with a fine tooth comb, as well they should, but, I think they were pleasantly surprised this time.
Yeah.
Then that Hilliard, all those, that supply, is that the new supply companies that we're using? I don't remember that vendor.
That's the one that they
From
come and they
PD.
started doing the PD for our
Oh,
staff. And
right,
so
right.
we kind of switched from Martin Brothers more to Hilliard.
You'll still see some Martin Brothers, I see, and I haven't really. Been able to tell why. Yeah,
Sometimes
they haven't established a pattern
They
yet.
shop.
Yeah,
So like, let's say they want to get paper towel. I'm just making that one up. They will look and see if Hilliard or Martin Brothers is a better deal, and they'll try and get the one that's a better deal, because we don't have a completely exclusive contract with Hilliard, so we don't have to only buy their products.
Right.
But we mostly buy their products because they're just as good and they work well together, and then,
well, and they're in the
the
co-op, they're in the
Yeah.
co-op, so in theory, they should be cheaper.
yeah.
but Not always, or
Yeah.
maybe we can't get some of those things from the
Right.
right, so.
On the prepaid says lift rental. Is this something that, maybe we talked about this, do we have a lift, but ours was not working?
It
and so we
wasn't,
had to rent it?
yeah, so we had to
Okay.
rent it to do something, was it in the gym?
Yeah.
Was it last?
Well, there was some light bulbs out in the gym, but then he used it like for the whole.
Yeah, because he had to
got
pay
all
for
the
it
other
the week, so then he
places,
just,
that's like
everywhere he could use it.
Is ours gonna be working or?
I wouldn't.
Is that something he can turn in to insurance,
I
the
don't,
plug-in insurance?
I'll have to ask about that because it's my understanding, it's been some negligence on our part. And
So they probably wouldn't cover that.
I'm gonna say no, but I don't know the whole,
Yeah, from what they're-
I'm not that,
Is
I
that
just
something
know what
we
he told
sell
me.
then, or?
well, that's what my suggestion would be, but I'm not, that's not my lane, so,
Yeah.
but from what he's told me. We've gotten a new battery, we've done everything that we can do outside of. I don't know, it only goes with a full charge on a brand new battery, it goes up and down like twice.
Gotta be really efficient.
And
For stuff.
so, I mean, I just don't know enough about it, I just know
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what he's.
I'll make a note to ask Bill about if selling it's our best option.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, if it's better to just rent it every once in a while. if you
Try
need
to
it.
find somebody that maybe could work on
Yeah, I don't
I
even,
need to get rid of it because it is handy as heck.
for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, because we need to change bolts, you know, on a regular basis and it's a hassle to have to,
Well, bring something in.
yeah.
Yeah,
And, I don't know who, is there anybody around here that you think of would do that, work on it?
Not right
We
offhand.
probably have to go to like Capitol or. You think Capitol will work on this for you, you know? Jill, isn't that Jill's? Yeah,
well, I'll ask Bill about
yeah, I just,
selling it or getting it fixed, or just that the board wants it fixed if possible.
Just, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't know enough about it. so.
Yeah, I don't either. But Bill should know enough, like I can email him tomorrow. And what's capital? I don't know what that is.
Capital City Equipment. We have a kind of a link to them, so. If they don't work on them, they'd probably be able to. Tell us who could. I don't know if Colbeck's tractor parts would work on those. Even, I bet they don't, I bet not they will. Mm-mm.
And I see the extinguishers were replaced, we replaced them, not just refilled those, right?
Correct.
For that.
Yeah, and those are, the extinguishers, those are what goes in the vehicles.
Oh,
As part of the inspection, the date, they were out of date, so they worked fine, but they were still out of date, so.
right.
That's one of the things that they wrote us up for.
Mhm.
And so that's what that was about.
I see they came out of the operating fund, I mean,
They did, what was the amount on that?
1,200,
Yeah, there was, I had a thought on that. I was thinking that maybe SU would help us with that, but I don't know the answer yet. It's something that I'm gonna have to call them on to see if they would. Okay.
now, do we have like the amount that are in the different accounts, like save, like, what's our balance on the save? I mean, I didn't.
You could, if. I can tell you.
Is that what's on the balance sheets, Julie?
Well,
Or not?
but
Yeah, I couldn't.
it's hard. I think those are a waste of your time. Only because. When I came here, Susie showed me to run all of those balance sheets for you guys. On a monthly basis. And so that's really just showing you what's happening in the current month. If it were me, I would want to know what it looks like as a whole.
Right,
And that's why activity is separate, because I do that as a whole, which is what I was showed, but so then I feel like. The monthly ones are a little bit misleading for you, but that's just my thought on it,
Can
so.
we change that? Like,
Yeah, if you guys want me to run it as a whole, I'll run it as a whole, yeah, for sure. But also, our capital assets would have, those are estimates in our capital assets plan, but I can tell you what, I sort of, in my opinion, I just sort of always thought, but I thought, well, you all must have a reason why you want it monthly. I didn't know what that was, but. See, so in save. we're just over 1 million. But you have to remember that we have bond payments that have to come out of that. In Pepple. Probably want to know Pepple, because that would be similar to say, I mean,
Right.
as far as the usage. $288,000 in Pepple. No bonds coming out of that, so that's where we would buy our vehicles. Any large expenditures that where one single item is at least $500. Pepple's a little more stringent on their save is a little more user friendly.
How much do we have in the building project one?
I put that in the notes. We're just a hair over 40,000.
Oh, is that this capital project
Yep.
construction fund? Okay.
Oh, no, I put it in the actual notes, like on your agenda, how much was there? It was just over 40,000.
Oh, I see. They put that underneath there. Okay.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, we made that deposit in that activity fund account yet or not?
So we haven't made the deposits from May yet.
Okay.
But they'll be made up here shortly because we'll have to have it all positive
Down
by June 30.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we'll be fine. For June 30.
Right. Even to a positive balance.
Yeah.
Is that like combination between Booster Club and
Yes.
us out of the general fund?
Yep, so, well, Booster Club, yeah, they gave us 20,000, I think. But then they also paid for softball uniforms. Apparently we needed some softball uniforms and it wasn't on the current cycle, so they agreed to pay for them. I don't know, I wasn't part of that conversation. And so you'll see an offset. We paid the bill and then boosters will pay us for it. You'll see a few of those in there. So usually when I'm paying the bills, you'll see where it might say boosters or something beside it. That's just to help me remember that I'm getting some money from the boosters for that expenditure. So then, well, like, yeah. So like you'll see like those plaques, boosters pays for the plaques up to, I think
Like $100.
it's right around $100, but I think it's more specific, like 6 plaques or something like that. I can't remember for sure, but like you'll see, it'll say boosters there. So I've paid the whole bill, but then boosters will reimburse us. So it's a little misleading because you see the expense, but you don't see the revenue coming in on the backside. Yeah, it was my understanding that, so boosters gave us 20,000. And they're gonna take care of the softball uniforms. And then I think it's my understanding that then each year when they pay us their annual amount, they're gonna do it in the fall as opposed to the spring.
We're gonna meet with the booster club and the new AD and Rob will be a part of it. Just the conversation to kind of see where we're at. And then see what we need and then see how we can work together and then set up a budget so that, Mr. Vaughn going forward knows. That you have $20,000 to spend or whatever it is, and then. You would try and live within that without getting themselves into a mess.
Mr. Vaughn's been in my office several times,
Yeah,
just
he's super
talking through the conversation about the budget and way more than any AD has ever with
That's
me.
good.
And him being a former board member, a school board
He
member,
knows that side.
he knows that, you know, so he gets it, so.
So who's gonna be on the boosters now? I mean, I assume Tracy's not gonna.
It's
think it's
Betsy,
Betsy
Betsy's the
and-
president, and this Jen. Jen, she did
Maybe.
VP, and then
I think Chris is on there too.
Nikki Whitaker is the
Treasurer.
treasurer, I think, and then Chris is probably, Damon is on it.
Because I know that Betsy and Chris came and met with Mr. Vaughn.
And I'm sure there's others,
They're just kind of,
yeah, cause I know,
those people were all on here.
Yeah.
As far as officers, yeah.
Yeah.
probably like train up the next batch of like middle school
Right.
parents, so can be careful, you can't be a booster fan. You're a parent, I use time.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's what to do. Any questions on the consent items?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent items.
Motion in a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Say no. Consent items are approved. Any correspondence? Excellent. Move on to public forum.
If anyone took a minute to look at the attachment that I sent with my email, you will see that I once again brought up the subject of AI since I initially talked about that the last time. But what I was trying to do this time is expand on it because I don't know where the school is at and what the teachers are all doing and where you're at in developing it. But the point I wanted to focus on to try to stay within my 3 minutes here this time is the fact that I'm speaking of birthdays, mine is next month, but I have lived long enough here. What I have seen over my lifetime is computers and the use of computers spread from just a little department here that did specific things out to practically all jobs in all aspects of it. So you not only have to know how to get the information that you need for your job, but enter the information. And with AI, start to develop some understanding of how does what you're doing fit with these other things that other people are using here. And since I used a medical example last time, I'll continue with it only because they're getting very good study results of the impact. Iowa City Medical School is one of the places that has developed a program for assessing medical situations. And what they do is you have a variety of people doing tests and entering information, which includes not only medical history, but specific testing, some past tests, whatever you happen to be doing, medications, you name it. It's a very complex and broad range of ideas to help assess a specific situation and something you may be looking at. So everybody involved in that has to develop some skills to figure out what it is they are working with for patient, because those are very specific examples of what they're doing. From there, then you will arrive at a conclusion of what it is you're going to do about this. And the reason that moves beyond just 1 or 2 individuals is because we each have our strong suits that we're really good with, but not all of them are, we're not just totally proficient in all areas. So it helps to have something assessing a whole lot of data that might get overlooked if you just leave it to 1 or 2 individuals. That's where this is heading in a whole variety of disciplines and applications. So that's going to be daily life moving forward. And from what I'm getting from news reports now, it's moving rather quickly. So there is an upside, yeah, I know there's a down, but there's an upside to some of this in terms of the schools. One upside also can be that it allows each individual student, if it's done well, to help relate the information they're initially looking at to some aspect of their lives. And if they're discussing it with others and to see how others are relating it to their lives, it automatically broadens their understanding and perspective on things. That can help a lot with education, because that's what education tries to do with each one of the disciplines. You will see them intersecting a little bit more. going back and forth between grade levels and things too can help students to relate to it, and maybe the ones that have trouble focusing on things, they might. I know it worked with my grandson who's ADHD, but once we get him to understand something in his own life, then he's more willing to take a look at it in other lives. So I know he's not alone in doing something like that. And the one specific example is actually a very reduced one of the geometry thing that I did years ago, and I don't remember how long ago it was. And John, I can't remember if you were on the board. All I remember is Bruce was on the board at the time. But the presentation I made one time was geometric shapes where I only changed one component each time. But so you started with one, changed one, but the matrix of factors defining them changed each time you made a change in the shape of the form. You would then have to use a different equation to process information about that form, and each form has different properties. That's not an upside and downside or anything, but that's a part of processing information and assessing the information. Sometimes when you have a visual aid like that, it can be helpful for students to relate to it. And I know one of the examples I was using when I gave that presentation to the board was, look at reading genres or something, or look at ideologies. You can have some factors that are the same, but you change something and it's going to work a little differently. So, you know, whatever it takes from the various disciplines to help them relate, that might be possible to fit in. If you're not already talking about this, maybe this will give somebody an idea to work it into some of the discussion that I know are going on. I have talked to one of my neighbors, so I know some of that's going on. I just don't know where it's all at. Am I anywhere near my 3 minutes or just?
You get a couple minutes. Couple minutes.
Okay, I tried.
Thanks, Sue.
Okay. Move on to approve the depository bank for 23-24.
So this is just a routine thing that we do. We just use the bank that's in our town, support local, so State Savings Bank for maximum of $5 million for fiscal year 23-24.
Do they, you know, Julie, they can cover more than the 250,000 FDIC, right? I mean, that's all been in the news lately.
Yeah.
Big deposits. Maybe we don't ever have more than 250,000.
We
But
do.
if there's a way that if you tell them you want it, they can do it.
Yeah, and with it being government funds, that slides in there as public funds as well. And so, yeah, there's ways to get it all covered. Mhm.
Make sure we do our due diligence on that.
Yeah, we also have to, because it's public funds, we also have to make sure that they're paying us a certain amount in interest, according to whatever a certain rate is. I have to go out and check it on a regular basis to make sure that, so like when CDs come up for renewal, whatever the renewal rate's going to be, then I need to go look to make sure that they're paying the minimum that's accepted for public rates or public funds rates.
Make a motion to approve State Savings Bank as a depository bank for the upcoming year.
Okay, motion and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Say no. State Savings Bank's been approved. Move on to student registration fees for 23-24.
So these, like the lunch prices, Taste has a calculator program that she uses, correct? That helps her figure out what the prices have to be or the minimums.
Yep, so it's called a PLE tool, and we've had it around for a long time. It used to be that we had to do it every year. But then they changed it to where if you can show that you have a positive balance in your nutrition fund on the previous year end, then you don't have to go by it's called a public PLE is what it is, something equity tool. And so, but if you have a positive balance in your account on the previous year end, then you don't have to necessarily go by that. So when our new food service directors came in, They were just worrying that it was a positive balance, and because it was, then they weren't necessarily going through the PLE equity tool. And so then something came about. I don't even know how this got brought up, the adults. The adults had to be brought up. And I don't remember what the requirements were. I can't remember now what that conversation was. But then we went, then I kind of delved in with her a little bit more and asked her if she had been using the PLE tool. So like, you know, even though we don't have to, it tells us, well, you really should be probably here right now, because it goes by your food usage, you know, how much you're bringing in, what your revenues are, what your food expenditures are. It takes all that into consideration. So it really is a good, and it doesn't take long, and it really is a good tool to use to say, well, we're right there. So we can, if something's going on in our community and we don't want to raise it, then we have that option. But if you remember, it used to be that they would say, if they said you had to raise it a dime, then you had to raise it a dime. You know, there were these limits. So anyway, she thought that we needed to raise the students' lunches and things like that. And I thought it was like 30 cents or 50 cents that she wanted to raise it. And I said, well, let's go a little bit less and have you use the PLE tool. So we walked through that, and she went through and used the PLE tool. And we thought that we haven't raised lunches for 6 years. We haven't touched them. So we try to acknowledge those and keep those as low as we can. With the adult lunches, they're not reimbursable, so we get no money back from them. So if
Is that for when teachers eat and then
Or
like
parents.
a parent?
Yep.
Yeah,
Both.
okay,
Both.
it's all the same.
Yep. And so, I mean, even that, raising that $1, that's a bit of a hike for us in one time. But because we haven't done it over the last few years, when maybe we should have a little bit less, we're kind of playing catch up a little bit right now. So, she wanted to go a little bit more. I said, I think I would rather stay around the 10-cent range or 15-cent range, and then go maybe just a little bit each year rather than shop it. You know, I mean, I know it's just a little, but every little bit helps. So we ended up on the 15-cent increase, and then the DE or the nutrition program drove the adult lunches. We don't really have much control over that.
People get any feedback from teachers like.
I don't know how many eat. Do you
That's
know?
what I kind of wondered how much.
I
that
almost
was.
So you can't go to McDonald's or Baxter Oil to get a lunch for that.
I know,
So-
you know, thinking negotiation stuff, like, well, now we have to pay more for lunch and.
I would,
Not gonna come back.
I would, yeah, I wouldn't be
Okay.
surprised if there won't be a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I still try to think about, well, they couldn't
It's
go
still-
somewhere else and get it for that,
That's
you
a
know?
very
and-
good.
Yeah,
It's a
So-
good meal, like
Right.
every once in a while I just don't eat lunch at all. That's not that I don't eat school lunch, but when I have eaten school lunch, it's always very good.
and if they can buy just the entree, they don't have to go for a whole lunch if they don't want to. So, you
Okay.
know, like sometimes they'll make egg salad sandwiches just because they have some extra time and some extra ingredients, or they'll make salads.
We make
or-
salads a lot.
which is something different from whatever the norm is being served that day. And so,
So teachers and staff, they have options.
Yes,
Yeah,
they
and she'll send out an
Yep.
email with like a picture of like a really nice chef salad that they've made in like little clear containers, and she'll say, we're chef salads today.
Yeah.
And so people
Yeah.
will come down and get
Yeah.
one.
The activity passes, probably doesn't
Right.
help.
Yeah, and it's been a while too.
yeah, I can look back and see how long that's been. It's been a while.
Yeah, and just trying to kind of recoup a bit, and then I know that athletic department and the boosters have talked a lot about how they're gonna share the cost of the activity passes and that sort of thing. Because part of one of the things that if you bought a sponsorship or you donated to the boosters, you know, some of them came with, you know, 2 or 4 activity passes. Well, that's you know, if it's an adult pass and it came with two of them, that's $170. That the school wasn't getting, so they just had that conversation, was like, oh, yeah, that's important. So they worked out a deal on that kind of stuff too. It just had something that hadn't come up before, so now we're.
Yeah, we haven't changed them since we went to Bolts.
Oh. Wow, this part of time.
Yeah.
$10 for a senior citizen, lifetime pass.
Well, and then,
So what's the difference?
yeah, then you'll see, right above it, there's a Baxter Senior Citizen Pass, 65 and older.
65 beyond that line.
Well, I don't think it really
Are
matters.
they just combining it?
Yeah,
into one?
yeah, we're just trying
Once
to
you buy
clean
it, you have it forever.
Yeah,
Oh.
Yeah.
I see.
yeah. We're just cleaning that up because what's the difference between the two? Other
Well, they
than
1 year
one is
fits
living
all.
in the district
Right.
and the other one isn't, you know what I mean? So, I mean, I think we can just have the one.
Debbie gonna be a retired staff member for a lifetime.
I can
Tires.
pay, I can. It's 2 more years.
But if the senior citizen has a lifetime pass already, are they grandfathered in?
Yeah,
Okay, so it's just
Yeah.
new senior citizens. So like Rob. No, I'm just kidding, I'm just kidding. I don't know what this.
I'm the only one.
Oh, I can. Sure, get these guys for a little bit.
Sorry.
We have a little turntable.
Everything else stayed the same, that's good. Here's what we-
yeah, we're right in the ballpark with everyone else. There's some like at 45 and 55. But the majority are right around us or above us. So that's probably something we're gonna need to look at though in the next year or so.
This is super minor, but the band rental might need to be a little bit tightened up. I'm pretty sure I've never paid for a rental.
There's
my
no
kid.
doubt in my mind.
So
There's no doubt in my mind. And I don't know how to,
maybe I've done it once.
yeah, it used to be that they just, well. It didn't even used to be on this.
Okay,
It was just
Well,
a
even-
fly by night kind of a thing.
Okay.
And so then I said, well, we need to at least get it on here or we can't charge at all, you know?
Sure.
And
It's a
then,
heck of a deal compared to
To
buy, you know,
yeah.
rent to own or whatever. This is very much worth it.
yeah, so then
Definitely encourage this. It's
Yeah.
just actually accounting for it and.
we don't necessarily know unless they're already using the instrument.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily know at registration time if they're going to be renting for the year.
Yeah,
So,
no, I know. It's
so
that-
then we decided, okay, well, we're gonna have to put it on the teacher. The teacher's got to be responsible.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of shifted and changed hands over the last few years
Yeah.
that. So I don't know that. But we
Yeah.
for sure need to because we're seeing a lot of repairs.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, then yes, sure, make sure we're getting.
We used to have that. Do you remember, we used to have a band resale on there. It was for $5. Do you remember that? And it was basically for those kids who broke a reed or something like that, then they could just buy the reeds from us, you know, or whatever. Well, that got a little loosey-goosey too. And I mean, reeds aren't that expensive, but we were buying them by the hundreds. And that's when all of this came about. So when I'm like, okay, so how do you know who's paid for band resale? So you know if they need to pay for a read right now or they've prepaid for a read right now. How do we all know that? And they're all just looking at me like, you know. And so I said, okay, well, we're gonna need to tighten that up a little bit. And so we took that off of there completely because they're just handing out reads as they need them. I mean, I get it. But then we started talking about the band instrument rental, and I'm like, well, how does that work? How does that happen? You know, because it had never been on here before. And so then they start telling me, you know, okay, well, we can get that on there too. But I still think it's a little loosey goosey.
Yeah, I made a note here to talk to Jamie and Rob. Maybe
some
Angie.
Accounting.
So
advice.
Angie and I talked and
Oh,
we're
okay.
like, it was because we thought, well, we'll get it on registration fees.
Uh-huh.
But we don't know
Yeah,
who's renting at the time of
yeah,
registration.
that wouldn't be the
Yeah,
right.
so we'll have
time
to get a
do
list from Jamie.
So then, that's when we decided to put it back on the teacher, and then when they paid the teacher brought it to us to deposit, and so then, we knew there was a checklist in that. I don't remember seeing deposits for that, so
Well,
there may
and
be a
maybe- and
few, there
maybe
may
she
be a few.
Didn't
But-
know. I mean, we've
Yeah.
gone through a lot of bands.
Right.
We've had turnover over the last
That's
five
good to
years,
know. I'm
yeah.
glad you brought it up, Kim, because then we can just visit with Jamie like in school before school
Yeah,
starts.
just
And
to
so
make sure
we
that
get a
the
list.
system, like
Yeah.
a check and balance.
Yeah, we
Making sure
do,
we're getting
we
it.
do have some that pay for it at registration. I think they're just maybe maybe they just know, they're not new to the program, so they just know. Oh. We're gonna have to. I'm gonna write you up a bill.
No, do I have to, yeah,
Yeah,
back pay?
back, yeah, I was gonna say, let's.
You owe us $2,000.
Start out with several. Is it 40 a piece or 40 a year?
I could give you both for you, probably.
Oh, gosh. I think we better move on.
Okay,
Yeah, we got clock's ticking because Kim's gotta get for softball. game.
Sorry.
okay, so do we have a motion to approve the 23-24 registration fee?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion and second, all those in favor say aye.
Uh,
Opposed say no. Registration fees are approved. We're on a level 1, level 2 investigator for student abuse.
So we use chief, we just put the Baxter Police Chief, but it'll be Chief Daggett for us. Or his designee is a level 2, and Sarah will, our TG, our school nurse, will be our level 1 investigator.
A motion to approve level 1, level 2.
So
Second,
Second.
in favor say aye.
Aye.
Say no. That's level 1 and level 2 investigators approved. Open enrollment.
Okay, so there's quite a few on here. So we have Rachel Morales for her son Aiden, 3rd grade from Newton. Sean and Brittany Norst, oh no, for their children Liv and Tate. Newton, Amy Foster for her son Ethan from West Marshall. I'll explain a little more about that in a sec. Jennifer and Josh Wisnowski.
That's our new
That's our
teacher.
our new middle school science teacher. For their daughters, Lauren, Audrey, Charlotte, and Violet from West Des Moines. Cheyenne Larson for her daughter Hazel from Collins Maxwell, and Victoria Cromer for her daughter Marley from Newton. And one of these students does have an IEP, but I visited with John about this a little bit today. I visited with our teacher or our administrators. And we do have some room, excuse me, in our special ed department, because of some graduations and that sort of thing. So, we're gonna like take it on a case by case basis, but we do have room for some level 1 kids, with maybe just like a reading or a math or a writing goal that don't require, paraprofessional support, because we just can't find paraprofessionals. So, the child on here that does have the, special ed need, it does not need a para. Whereas we have another one later, that does, is like more of like a level 2 student. And that one would require a para for support, and we just don't have the paras to do it. So we would kind of want to look at it more on a case by case, because we want to welcome all these people to our district. We think it's fantastic, but only if we can meet their needs. So if they have kind of minimal needs, fantastic, we'll take them in. So I just hate to have the blanket, we're not taking anyone with special ed when we really could meet their needs. So that's why there's the difference between the two, because John, that was a great question. John was like, why some and why not the others? And that's why. So do you want to do those first and then the one to not approve?
Yeah, you haven't read the one that you're not gonna approve.
Oh, okay. Well, do I do that one after they?
We can do it separate.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense for everybody, John.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the open enrollment in class?
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those say no. Listed open enrollment approved for coming in.
Okay, and then Sydney Orndorff for her daughter Finley from Newton. I recommend we do not approve for open enrollment because we don't, we can't meet her needs in our program.
We have a motion to decline open enrollment request.
Second.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
Those say no. Enrollment request is not approved. On facilities, grounds, and transportation.
So Bill, gave me the insurance claims and I linked them there so you guys could take a look at them. And one thing John and I also talked about today was one of them is not right. So I emailed Bill and have him look into it, but the garage door on the list says it's like 9 by 9 and that's not right. John thinks it's more like
Multi-purpose building.
Mhm.
Listen, it's
12
9 by 9 and it's 12 by 16.
So we'll have to have him take a look at that. But one of the things John and I talked about was there's a difference between, I mean, I'm sure we all have the same thing in our house right now. Do you want to fix it or do you want to get the money? So, it's just different. So one thing we talked is that perhaps we want to make a work session, or if not a work session, if just a couple of you and Bill and I, and whoever want to walk around and just look at stuff and make a decision like, do we care if the roof of the multipurpose building is dented? Or, I mean, I'm just making that up. I don't know if that's on the list. Or is that fine? And we'd rather just take the reimbursement for that.
Right.
So we just kind of need to decide how we want to proceed with this because it's a huge bill. But also, do we, is that money better spent somewhere else? And we're okay with, driving a car with hail damage. Some people are and some people aren't. So it's
Right.
My one question, I guess, with that is if we didn't replace something or repair something. And then there's there's more damage at another event, there's another
Mhm.
storm. Do they sort of disregard that you already had this existing damage and you
If they
didn't fix
pay,
it?
if you, I think, the way I understand, if you take the money and don't repair
Yeah.
it, it's a lesser dollar amount.
Okay,
But they, if it's damaged again, they won't pay it, they won't pay
That's
it
what I was-
again.
yeah,
But if
that's what I was
you
wondering.
fix it, they'll pay you a higher amount.
Yeah,
You'll recoup that depreciation or whatever they
Uh-huh.
call that, and then it'll be good to go. I mean,
Mhm.
there's another event, which about every 2 years. Right?
I don't get it.
right,
So what happens, John, and maybe you don't know this, but like if, right now they say we have hail on the roof of the multipurpose building. And then a year from now, a windstorm comes in and tears the roof off. Are we just out of luck?
Yeah, and I think the roofs are a little different from the way I read that report, that as long as they didn't cover any of the roofs because it didn't have penetration through them. I mean, if there's a dent up there, they recognize it, but it's like, it's not gonna harm or whatever. I guess they figure you can't see it from the ground or whatever. It's more of a cosmetic deal. But like the siding, it looked like from what I read it, it's pretty obvious on some, so they will replace that. So, but I'd say in that scenario, if they said that the roof was fine or whatever, so we're not gonna do nothing about it, and then a tornado comes and takes it, they should cover the whole building.
okay.
Yeah. And I even,
See what you mean.
when Michael and I talked, and if we do a walk around or whatever, have an insurance agent, or even like Jake Brannon, somebody in the community that knows it, walk with us, and because it's kind of confusing, to be honest.
It's a hard thing to deal with.
Yeah.
So I guess I'd like to just know for sure, have somebody that it's like, okay, if we do this, what do we get? If we do this, what do we get? And then what's that do to our future, if there is a,
Right.
So you don't
That's
want,
what damage.
so
Yeah.
you don't want like our EMC insurance agent.
I don't care.
You don't care.
Yeah, as long as they can
Yeah.
explain it to
Yeah.
me, I'm
Yeah.
fine.
Because that's what we had when we had the duration.
Yeah, I remember that guy walking
Yeah.
around with us.
Yeah.
So just those kinds of questions would be, he would know that, but just know, like, let's make the right decision, because if the deal is, if we don't fix the dents in the side. And then we have a windstorm and it's ruined, well, then are we out of luck or not out of luck,
Yeah.
so. Those would be good things to know.
So I'll get a hold of Bill, the whole list thing for Bill. We can get something set up. And then you can probably help with getting the EMC guy to.
Yeah.
To come.
Actually, Bill's been the contact and everything. It's been
Oh, so maybe,
wonderful.
okay.
Yeah, I'm
fantastic.
really kind of out of the loop on it,
Okay.
so I mean, I know that we're getting some, that's about all I know.
Okay, so I'll just keep you guys posted
Okay.
on what I find out after talking with them. And then these are just, the other two are kind of FYIs. Bill popped in my office today and said the AC in the high school office isn't working right. And he's gonna turn it into that SU insurance, but there's $1,000 deductible. But if we didn't turn it into that, it'd be like 5,000 or 6,000. He said, I can't remember what he said was wrong with it, but
Yeah, because he came to me last week and said it wasn't a high school, it was a whole high school, new building. And that we'd blown a few fuses. And the closest place that had them was Creston, so he drove down to Creston and got them. So now that must not be the
yeah,
issue.
this must be different because he stopped in today in the high
Okay.
school, just the office, like Rob and Angie's, that area. It wasn't cooling and
Because
I wish I could remember what he said it was, but I.
if it's an event related to hailstorm,
Well, it could be. No, I don't know. I'll have to pay that. Right, right. It could be. So we'll have to
Could
have,
be
yeah,
coils were damaged or something.
yeah.
yeah.
So we'll have Bill, be able to take care of that too. So either way, he can get it fixed. So either it'll only be $1,000, which is still $1,000.
Yeah.
Or it'll be nothing if it's related to the other one, but at least it's not the 5 or 6. And then the final one, like just hot off the press, he got a quote for that library project and he had 3 contractors come and only one eventually finally came through with a bid. The other 2 never did. And he said he could try and get another bid from somebody he knows in Marshalltown if we wanted. But I linked it here and
I know, this is really nice. I mean, it's very in-depth.
It's detailed.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
explains the
Yeah.
whole thing.
And so what you can kind of see that first picture, and Sue, I can't really show you. It's probably hard to see, but
Basically north of the.
yeah, north of where the
right out
sign
here.
is.
Yeah.
And so they're gonna bring the sidewalk like up the sidewalk and then it'll just
Like
take
where
a
the
right.
flagpole was,
Yeah.
like over here seeing.
And so it'll go right in.
For it's the library.
And so then they can use the slope and stuff of the other sidewalk to get you up there and then go in that way. And then the doors, at first they were just gonna put 1 door, but then they realized we really are gonna need 2 doors because otherwise you're gonna open that door and like icy cold air is gonna blast straight into the library. So like in the winter and that kind of stuff. So they'll make like a little and yeah, a little vestibule. So you'll come in and then there's like a little skinny hallway with a second door that, will you can get in that first door, then you'll get buzzed in or whatever, or actually you probably won't get buzzed in because it's just the library. So you'll come into that second door and then you'll be into the library. And then this other one is it's gonna have a self-contained bathroom. That way the library doors can be locked, so it can be self-contained. And so he was explaining it, there's like a little closet with like a little pump thing that, it can like pump the waste from the little self-contained bathroom up and then connect with the sewer pipes for the rest of the bathrooms. And then it'll have just like a little single, like a sink and stuff, but it'll just be one individual bathroom. So it'll just be right there. So,
Did we talk about timing for when this would?
well, I think they can get started as soon as,
Gotcha.
he was hassling them and finally he was like, they have a school board meeting the 21st, I have to have it. So he finally got it today. I told you we'll just have so many projects right now that he just couldn't get anybody else to even follow up with
Has Marie or anybody from the library seen it yet?
No, even
Okay.
Greg, I've talked about it with Greg. He knows that it's gonna happen or could potentially happen if you guys approve it. But literally, Bill just brought this to me about 2:00 today. So I thought I'd quick sneak it in there. So at least you guys can take a look at it tonight. Julie, you probably didn't see it until just now.
Just now.
So we could use what's left in the building project, and then there'll still be some gap there though, so. Have to decide. Because the safety grant is I've already submitted it. I finally got that submitted, and with everything we need, there's still not nearly enough money for everything. And so the idea behind this was if we did this kind of using the building project money, we didn't have to go through quite as many hoops as with the other, like the federal grant money, because then with the federal grant, you have to make sure all your contractors are all like invested. There's a lot more to it. So, the stuff I was spending the safety grant on was more like products like, cameras and locks and, door security, that kind of thing, because then you didn't have to really have like people.
Probably good. So if we're here, this is the hallway.
Yeah, like this is walking down
So
to
this
the
this
gym.
is the west side of the,
Yeah, like the sign's right here.
yeah, so you're coming in from the west.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
sidewalk
yeah,
here
you're
to be
coming-
parallel to
correct.
the.
Yeah,
that
They're
hallway.
thinking like, I can't be north. That's-
yeah. So you'd come in, like, you know, where the little pit where the little kids read, you'd just be up the top, kind of in the back corner where they have the antiques and stuff.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, there's a picture of the awards or whatever they're back there.
yeah.
Does the library board have to do anything as far as the approval or, in terms of any kind of project?
I don't,
I mean, it's,
know. I mean, it's our building.
yeah, I wasn't sure how that.
I don't know if anybody that was here long enough ago when this got set up, there's any kind of rules.
I mean, I would just hate to say, yes, that we're good, this is what we're doing,
Right.
and they're like, well, we hate this idea.
Right.
I,
I think it's a good idea, it seems like a good spot, did they
Mhm.
give any input as far as options?
Oh, and Greg did,
Oh, okay, well, that's good.
school letter.
right.
And hopefully, but he's not anymore.
I would like to.
Happen. They knew something was gonna happen, but obviously. you haven't seen that.
If they can put in the difference, can they put in the difference?
Oh, well, I mean, there's a
What is-
library,
What would the difference?
Looks like
What's about-
16,800.
yeah. Because we-
20,000, Because this
about-
doesn't include electrical.
Oh,
You see
Bill's
that
gonna do all
one
that.
you
Yeah.
See, we did send him to a class, right?
Yeah.
You see
And
that.
so he purposely had them not include that.
Right.
So he said it would just be a matter of him buying the
Right.
stuff, you know,
Right.
but yeah, he's gonna take care of that, so that will save us quite a bit. So we have 40,000 left and it's about 56, so yeah, about 16,000 difference.
Keen is gonna be completed by our school locksmith. Who's our school locksmith? Bill.
Well, Walmart or whatever, like where do they take the keys to get?
No,
Not
it's not.
Walmart,
It's not.
It's out of Marshalltown.
It's like a
Oh,
key place,
okay. Oh.
because we want them to
Yeah,
match our
personal.
our
Right,
keys, yeah.
right.
But yeah, I was actually really impressed with the bid as well, like how detailed because I'm no contractor, but I read it and understood really exactly what they were trying to do.
Mhm.
And one thing I'm not trying to sell it to you guys or anything, but one thing I really like about the idea is. If that's self-contained and then we have our secretaries on that end, there's really nobody that's gonna be coming to this door to ring the doorbell, because there won't be anybody to get the door. So, and we really will have a lot less traffic inside the building, but we just also have one less secretary to manage the doors too.
So the reason we wanted to do this was for the safety grants, so we don't have to have people coming through the
Coming
door
into our
and having
school.
access.
Yeah, the whole.
So what about the access to the,
So
those doors,
Yeah,
those
so-
internal doors?
yeah, so part of the stuff that we did submit for the grant is some locking systems that will make those doors so they can't just be accessed, almost, not exactly, but a little bit like the fitness center, where like you can get in, but you can't get out. So there's like lock people, because we've like scratched our head a million times, but lock people who are figuring out how, teachers and kids should be able to get in if needed, but public
Somebody's
can't
in the
just
library
get
making
out.
it. Okay.
Yeah. So. It's just tricky because, this was a
Yeah.
great idea, but a long time ago when they did that. School safety was an issue like it is now.
Yeah, I can't really, I mean. To me, it's our building and that, it should be up to us to pay, pay for it.
Yeah, I just thought with
The
it being a
library,
joint city
I
school.
mean, they provide.
I was just looking at
staff
our
and that. and
Yeah, I was just
provide
looking at our
books, But to
2080 to see what it said. It doesn't address that.
me, this is like improvements
More
to the
facility.
building than we have the building, so.
Yeah,
Right.
And again, I want their input on it a little bit too, but
right.
ultimately it's our
I mean,
decision.
they're,
if we're gonna do it or
but
not.
they're in there, so they might have some suggestion
Right,
that we don't even
exactly.
see, you know.
Sure.
But
Yeah, I'd be inclined to,
something's gonna happen.
yeah, I'd be
So-
inclined to approve it and then make sure they know.
But like
what-
talk to them to make
Yeah.
sure that this is, like,
That
here's,
they have
here's the
buy-in.
plan and we want to make sure they understand it. And I think they understand the reasons why, but we could definitely visit with
Right.
them and. I don't know when the library
Board
board
meetings
meetings,
are.
but I could
I
sure
feel-
find out.
I feel like they're doing it
No, they're
tonight.
having quilt club. I was
Oh,
in there. They were
okay.
telling-
They are, I think, Wednesday nights, though.
Okay.
Mhm.
I think so. They're the same
But-
time it starts usually.
Cause yeah, we don't want to blindside them. They're like, what the heck? These guys like a wrecking
Yeah.
ball's coming through the
Yeah,
wall and
yeah.
they have,
Right.
something planned or whatever.
They'll try to get a bid from, I can't remember who it was. That company that Bethards worked for that did the remodeling.
And finishes.
Yeah. He tried to get a bid from them, I wonder.
I think he did not. I think there was some reasons.
I mean, personally, I'd like to get one more bid anyway, and then document that we tried to get two others.
Yeah.
At least we have two.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I can sure talk to him. And I,
Cause I think that was it again that did the,
Heartland finishes.
yeah,
They did the walls.
yeah.
yeah.
Which
They were
one?
quick and pretty,
They did those temporary walls.
When, okay,
By
Okay.
Cass's office,
yeah, where Cheryl and,
yeah.
And I don't know that Nick works there anymore, but I didn't realize that's as big as it is. There's like 2,200 employees for Heartland finishes.
oh, really? Wow.
Oh,
well,
yeah,
hopefully somebody can give a bid.
yeah.
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 So were they, they're the ones that did the windows out of
Oh, at
the
the,
complex too, and the press box,
Press
the
box?
big press box, right? Weren't they the ones?
They
that
may
did
have
that?
been. I can't remember for sure.
Thinking it was, maybe.
Very well could have been.
Well, I'll sure talk to him and see if we can't get somebody else to give us one more bid, so at least we can say we've had two bids. And he said he knew somebody in Marshalltown, he could maybe do some arm twist if he had somebody to come just give us a bid too. There was just people who got scared off by the building the vestibule, and like it was a bigger project than they thought. It was one thing just to cut a door, but then it became a whole nother thing with the,
We do want it
Building
to be
hall.
self-contained and you're adding a bathroom
yeah.
and there is more to it.
I don't want to be opposed to having a special meeting. I mean, cause I know
Yeah.
we got time clock clicking here
Yeah.
during the summer that if they could get it like in 2 weeks, another bid or
Yeah.
a week, we could have. Yeah, quick
Yeah.
meeting or
And we maybe even
whatever.
invite Bill too, and then we could ask him some of these insurance questions and have our insurance. Possibly,
Yeah,
I think if it's kind of in that corner, it wouldn't be too big of a disruption even if we got into September. or something.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. That was huge. I think it's a huge job. Fill the whole school with kids.
Yeah, really.
that's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yes, maybe hold off on that for now.
Yeah,
But thank you for. working
yeah,
on that.
yeah,
That's
you
cool.
bet.
We want every bid to be that detailed with pictures.
I know,
We're a little bit late to what it's saying.
Move on.
Really nothing. there.
Yeah, really, the other ones are just like for information.
AC. That's gotta be done later. Okay, we don't need. Wait for another bid for the rest of that then. Move on to personnel.
So Katie Kibbe as middle school English teacher.
she's taken a position with another district, Southeast Polk, and that's where she lives, so it's understandable. And Rob has it advertised and he's gone this week on vacation, and so he's gonna let it run for the rest of this week and then see what he can come up with when he gets back. And I was looking last time, there weren't of applicants. I think the last time I checked, there were 3. And
For the middle school, English that were. As far as number of FTEs were relatively well,
yeah,
thinking about the people.
Right.
About the future stuff.
so we're about, when Mrs. Luther retires at the end of next year, if she truly retires at the end of next year, there's a potential that we could maybe take it from, what do we have, 4 now to 3.5, if we could find something to pair the 0.5 with. I think that's the tricky part, is what do you pair the 0.5 with?
We have, what do you mean we have 4?
We have 2 English, 2 high schools, like,
Oh,
then
I'm
2 in
sorry,
the
I
middle
was thinking just in the middle school.
no,
I'm
no, like
sorry.
Mrs. Luther and Mrs. Kibbe, and then Mrs. Brummel or Miss Applegate and Mr. Smith. So we have 4 English teachers, and so depending on if you could find somebody with just the right certifications, you could maybe combine some social studies in English or something. It wouldn't, it's just the tricky part is finding somebody with the right endorsement. Because as hard as it is right now, it's just nearly impossible to find somebody who would do it out. And I don't think they're to the point yet that they can do that. But I hate to say that without Rob here.
Yeah.
But I know that that's been conversation about when Mrs. Luther retires.
But even if this could be, okay, if we were just gonna hire just for her position right now. How much, I mean, what is the time involved in that? I mean, how many hours, is it like,
With-
just like in the morning or just in the afternoon? You know what I mean? How many classes is that?
Oh, if we were gonna do like.
If you were a part,
a
if you could
part-time,
find somebody just
um,
part-time.
Well, I think you could probably figure that out to make it work. Probably either way, I have to talk to Travis, but we could probably. So she'd probably teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade language arts. That's 3 periods a day, probably 6 periods a day, because they do it 2 sections. And then I think one of them right now, they
Sure.
have divided into 3.
And then you have your study period.
Their prep. But I don't know if that's something you could. It'd probably be like what Rob has talked about was like completely realigning the whole English
Right.
department. Because right now we have Mrs. Luther teaches reading and Mrs. Kibbe teaches language arts. But some people just teach like English language arts. And so doing that, you wouldn't necessarily have the same schedule. You could do it, it just. I don't know exactly what the schedule would look like, but
And maybe restructuring that in June would be a big
yeah,
endeavor. For the next
especially when Rob's not here. Like, well, Rob, we just
We
completely.
can do it tonight
Yeah.
and just.
It's like, oh.
You gotta figure it out.
Yeah, here you go. That's what we're doing.
It was so easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got a retirement all planned out.
Yeah.
See the face.
Yeah, he's not logged in, is he?
No.
But I mean, we'll have to just see. I mean, if we don't get any applicants that are viable, we may have to.
Is that our only opening right now?
I believe so. I can't think of anything else right
Pretty
now.
good.
I think we've got Paris pretty much filled and. Yeah, I mean, because I was just talking to some other districts and one is still looking for 8 teachers. I mean, just,
Well, East Marshall was still at the beginning of school the year last year. They were
Yeah.
so short of teachers, they had to restructure their whole grade level as far as how many sections they had. Remember when we were up in arms with how many sections we were gonna have for 1 grade, 1 year?
yeah.
And they had to combine because
Yeah,
they had
I just don't. have-
too many vacancies.
Yeah, Newton was the same way last year.
Yeah,
They had like 16 teachers leave and they still needed, I forget how many.
yeah.
Bad.
So. Stay tuned on. we'll see what he gets when he gets back next week.
And then Julie,
Oh,
Well, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna make a motion to accept the resignation.
I'll
Kate
second.
McKinney.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Uh,
Opposed, say no. Resignation is approved.
then Julie, do you want to explain this IFRS thing?
Yep.
It's actually a really good deal.
So, yeah, because we need to take a motion on it, because I have to send it in to them. So we provide a stipend to employees who choose not to go with the district's insurance, right? So in the past, we have IPERS audits every 5 years. And in the past, we would pay IPERS on so it's $3,300 per year for each individual who doesn't take district insurance. So we would pay IPERS on that. Employee would pay their share, we would pay our share. Then we had an IPERS audit that said Kim's getting more a bigger IPERS benefit because she's getting money paid into IPERS on this 3,300 than Julie is, because Julie's taking the district's insurance. Even though the district insurance is $30,000, as far as IPERS is concerned, Kim was getting the benefit where Julie wasn't. So then they said the district has to pay for those people who don't get the stipend, the amount equal to what you would get to IPERS if you were getting the stipend. So then we went through this whole thing and changed it all. Then I've been going through an IPERS audit since February. And you send in a file to them. So I send in my IPERS contributions every month. So they say, we're going to audit you for 2022. So I send in an IPERS file to them for the 2022, and they match it to their records and say, this is what you should have paid, and this is what you paid. So tell me why they differ. It's okay if they differ. You just have to tell me why. You have to know why, and it has to be, correct as far as IPERS is concerned. Well, let me tell you, it was a mess. And for those IPERS people, they would have to do this at every single school district. They would have to understand why the matches aren't matching and things like this. I can't even imagine working at IPERS. But anyway, so like, for instance, we also had the teacher retention payments last year, which are not IPERS events, but yet that's showing up on one side of the equation where it's not on the other. So I have to go through every single person and explain to them what the differences are and how they add up. Then if there's any changes in, your premiums, because we're on a fiscal year, or contract amounts, because then they have to look at contracts to make sure that we're paying out the correct amount. Anyway, it was a hot mess. And we were talking about it, and I'm just like, is there not any way that we can get around this? It's not that I didn't want to not pay IPERS. I wanted to do everything I was supposed to, but it was just a mess. And so all of this is gauged on whether the district has a cafeteria plan, cafeteria 125 plan. And so do y'all know what that is? It's flexible spending account.
Oh.
They call it cafeteria 125. That's the legal terminology. So all of this is basically based from this. And we do have a cafeteria 125 account. So in just the last 3 years, I think it was, she said, they've changed it so that if you have a cafeteria 125 plan, but your board chooses to not consider this $3,300 a IPERS event, then we don't have to pay IPERS on that. And neither does the employee. And so now they're getting more money in their pocket. Now they're getting less in their IPERS in the long run, but they're now not going to have to pay IPERS out of their pocket, and we're not going to have to pay for it out. So it's considered a payment in kind, which is how they differentiate between a salary or a payroll or a bonus or, something like that. There are a few other payments like those sign-on bonuses. They're not IPERS events. And so we can make a motion and approve that we'll consider the medical insurance waive stipend to be not an IPERS event. And it'll basically save the district $30,000 every year.
So starting July 1st.
Yeah.
Good job, Julie.
Well, she was like, oh, you need to do this. The IPERS lady, because it's a mess for them, because they basically have to understand what are every scenario or every district's
Yeah.
payout events to understand if we're paying it correctly or we're not paying it correctly. And they're like, it is just a mess. And she says, if I were you, I would run and not walk to your board and, explain this to them that, because it obviously it's going to lower their IPERS events over the long haul. But it ends up being so minimal. It's like a few $100s in IPERS a year for each person. And so to them individually, it's not that big of a deal, in my opinion. But to the district as a whole, it's a big deal.
So the people who do take the district insurance. Say we get. What do we get, what do we pay for it?
3,300.
3,300, yep. So
If we do though, say I'm taking district insurance, do I get IPERS on that insurance?
no,
So that
you only get it on the 3,300, which
if I
amounts,
don't,
if you don't, no, if you do take the insurance, I still am paying you right now. I still am paying you the amount equivalent to what it would be if you were getting the 3,300. So now that Michael, who doesn't take the insurance, who gets 3,300, and Corey, who does take the insurance, gets the equivalent of the 3,300 in your IPERS.
That makes sense to you.
Which doesn't.
I mean, it makes
Yeah.
sense to me. I understand what you're saying, but it doesn't make sense.
No,
It
and
shouldn't be.
that's right. So I argued, at our previous one, and I said, but the insurance is $30,000. They're getting way more, but that's not an
But I
IPERS event.
understand the
It's
IPERS
only as
amount
much as considered. Yes,
for that person.
yeah.
So is our board action determining if something's an IPERS event, or is that a defined term, what IPERS events are, like the?
It's just,
There's a defined
yeah,
Yeah.
so you just have to say we are not gonna approve this medical insurance one,
Okay,
right?
gotcha.
But Julie said
Go ahead.
if we're gonna consider the payment in kind. but
Yeah.
They're reviewing it as salary.
Yes, and
Which
she's
it
telling
should have
me,
never been viewed that way.
but that's what the law was back then.
Exactly.
And now they've changed the law to come around to our way of thinking and say, it's not a salary, it's a payment in kind. We have other payments in kind, that we,
Yeah, like the bonus with the COVID.
or, yeah.
Okay.
Things like that.
So I can tell you, I was just gonna put this up here.
Are you looking at how many people don't have it or something?
Well, I was gonna tell you how much it is for each person that we do pay. $311.52 a year is what we pay for each employee who has insurance that doesn't get the stipend. We're paying it also in the stipend. So that's a bonus to us as well, because even now, Michael, who's getting the 3,300 in her pocket, we've taken the whole IPERS event out of that. So we're not paying on that either, and neither is the employee. So they're actually getting more in their pocket right now because it's a non-event.
300
across the
whatever
board.
dollars their paycheck will be.
Theirs is less than that. We're at 9.44. They're at 6 point something or another that they have to pay into IPERS, but it was like, I calculated it and it was like 172 a year on their half, you know, like their portion of it. They're not gonna see any difference on our side of it because it was us that was paying it in, except for the amount of their IPERS over the years. But a few $100s a year, $300 a year isn't really gonna be that big of a difference. And IPERS takes your highest 5 years, I believe. It used to be your most recent, but now it's just across the whole board.
So how do we come up with 28,000 at 300 a whack? That'd be like 90 people.
So we have, well, those are just the people that. What is that amount? That's, yeah, so those, then we have to think about all the people that we pay for who does get it, who does get the 3,300. So if you're talking about every single person who works for us that we pay IPERS on full time, so you're looking at 60 some employees.
But not all of them take the stipend.
Not all of
But
them,
they all get it.
But they all get it.
They get the stipend or they get the insurance. We had to pay it to make it
we're
fair.
paying
You
it.
were paying
Oh,
it.
okay.
We're paying it
So
across
that's
the
how you-
board.
Yeah.
Oh, even if they took the insurance, we were still.
We're paying the
Yeah.
employer side of it. Mhm. And then obviously, you know, with administration, it's more because of the, how we do that.
Percentage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions about that?
Take the motion then to approve the inclusion of the stipend for my first coverage. A second,
Second.
favor, aye. Let's say no. Been approved.
Thank you.
Okay, I can keep this short and sweet, but, or sorry. yeah, Superintendent. Short.
Yes.
I just jumped right in.
Go for it.
So I've been working with Lindsay Black and Katie Petermeyer, and then actually Bree Crook is gonna help us as well. And we're gonna work on putting together some promotional materials that are joint city, school, community, Bedco, just kind of just promoting us, telling our story and showing like some of the cool things going on in our community and some of the cool things going on in our school. And we haven't really drawn out the storyline yet, but just know that I'm really excited. And these two gals have been great to work with. And then we were trying to figure out if we could hire somebody or if we had any students. And then Bree Crook has offered to help us with it. So just as our tech person. So we're very excited. We just haven't gotten the meeting scheduled yet because people have been gone and this and that, different things have come up. So stay tuned for that. We're gonna try and do kind of a social media campaign, and one of the fellas on Bedco works for, is it the co-op, John? He's got
FS.
FS, and he has access to a drone from his work, and they said they'd be willing to do some cool drone footage of the city, so we can use that. And just I talked to them and then to Lindsay, I believe it was, and just said, you know, how do you get involved with Bedco? And so I went to the meeting last month just to kind of see what was going on and stuff. And so I'm gonna start trying to go to their meetings just so that we can just really start building that collaborative partnership, because what's good for the school is good for the community, and same with, you know, we definitely need each other. So I'm excited about that and just finding more ways to work together. And the IASB priorities, you can take, we don't have to approve those this month, just take a look at them, and then next month we can, you can tell me which ones you want, and then I'll submit them. And then if you click on the board policies, there's a whole bunch on here, and most of them you approved already. But they're just the required ones, and they needed to be renumbered, and so it's just kind of oops. But I told our person Peter that we could officially approve the other ones, or all of them at our board meeting this month. So I was able to go ahead and
submit the grant, and then I just have to email him after our board meeting saying, yep, our board approved all the policies. So these are all the ones that we need for the grant.
We looked at this last.
Yeah, there's like maybe one or two that I added, but they're all, I mean, they're all required, and there's nothing that would like surprise you or anything like that. The only one that we even had any wiggle room on is the one we talked about last month, that we had to pick between option A or option B, and the rest of them are just really like as written from the Iowa School Board Association. See why, like, we laugh and say this is $50,000. It's like, oh, it's like $1 an hour.
And strings attached.
Yeah. So I just need you to make a motion to approve the board of the safety grant policies, or I don't know how you want to word it.
It'll be as recommended
As
by.
recommended. Okay,
Most of these, they're all, we already have most of these.
yeah, some of them are just like a modification of it just a little bit, or changing the number a little bit so it matches up with.
It's
their-
crazy,
Yeah,
the hoops you have to jump through.
So yeah, we can. Make a motion to approve these recommended for the safety grant.
Yeah, and we'll just say as recommended by the Homeland Security.
Yeah.
Leadership or guidance or whatever.
Take motion. Take a second.
Yeah.
Favor to approve the policy numbers. Yeah. Aye. Well. Policies have been approved.
thank you for doing that. And then, like I said, I submitted the grant. Now we're just waiting to hear back from the DE and about the next steps. Once they approve it, then we can get stuff ordered, like start getting those cameras ordered. We have them all picked out. We have the quotes and stuff, so it's just a matter of submitting the orders once we get the green light from them. But I'll be able to submit the board policy stuff tomorrow too. All right.
Closed session.
Yep, that's fine. So we can make the motion to do that, and then I can shut this down.
Make a motion to go into closed session.
I'll second.
Okay. Treasurer, aye.
Aye.
Getting closed session at 7:22.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sue.
Hi, Sue. Take care.